Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of AFCEA International, welcome to Day 3 of TechNet Cyber. Before we begin this morning's program, we have just a few brief administrative remarks. As we have the last few days, we're taking questions for this session electronically by text or email to the address on the screen, askmetncyber@gmail.com. Signal Magazine has been blogging throughout the week. Their reports will be available on the Signal website. If you don't have Signal bookmarked, just go to afcea.org and you'll find the link. You'll also find recordings and presentations from the week's sessions that are authorized for release on the AFCEA website and YouTube channel. Those should be published early next week. At this time, please join me in welcoming Colonel Mike Black, U.S. Air Force retired, Vice President for Defense for AFCEA International, to the stage.
Some of you might recognize that walk-up music. It is Ode to Pickleball, and a parody of Wrecking Ball. But there was a pickleball match last night within AFCEA, and the champions are here in the audience, and I just want to recognize them. That's Lauren, May, and Michaela Lyles. Raise your hands back there. Ode to the pickleball champions. All right. Hey, good morning. I hope you had a great evening yesterday, and a great day. I mean, we had Miss Katie Arrington with all of her energy and then some, speaking about CMMC, SWIFT, Zero Trust, non-kinetic things. Of course, we had the CIO panel and a farewell for Miss Venus Goodwine. We recognized her with the Chair Superior Performance Award and the other service CIOs that were there. A great panel. We also had a great cyber advisors, principal cyber advisors, PCAs, led by General Adams. Just a fantastic thing. And those that I saw last night at some of the networking events, I know you had a good time because I was watching you. Just thanks for all that support. Further recap can be found in the Signal Show Daily. You can go to the website on that. As we move into this third and final day, on the final stretch, like the Kentucky Derby or the Preakness, we're on the final stretch here. I really want to thank our industry partners for their generous support and their sponsored events. We're, of course, yeah, that's a woohoo. Yeah, all right. We're definitely grateful for their financial support. Without them, events like this can't happen. But more than that, we recognize and appreciate the important role that they play in promoting our national security and resilience. Please look at the event app and see the full list of sponsors. There's still time to go out and see them in their booths today. I particularly want to thank Sienna and Lumen for their support in supporting this morning's Fireside Chat. Again, hope you took advantage of all the theater sessions, 36 of those. Without further ado, I just want to give a brief intro to our folks that are on the stage today. First, we have Lieutenant General Todd Isaacson, the Director of Command and Control, Communications and Computers, Cyber, and Chief Information Officer, J6 of the Joint Staff. General Isaacson assumed his current role in December 2023, and in this role he develops C4 capabilities, conducts analysis and assessments, provides joint and combined force guidance, and evaluates C4 requirements, plans, programs, and strategies for the chairman. General Isaacson graduated from Auburn University with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical. Oh, Auburn, sir. With a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering and was commissioned through ROTC. Lieutenant General Jeff Ray is Army's Deputy Chief of Staff, G6. He assumed that current role on 1 January of this year. And in this capacity, he's a Principal Military Advisor to the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Army CIO for planning, strategy, network architecture, implementation, of C4 and cyber operations and networks for worldwide Army operations. General Ray is a native of the St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, and since his career began in September of 1983, he has served as an enlisted soldier, a warrant officer, that's a who, and special ops assignments, and then also at the White House Communications Agency. And that's where we crossed paths back in the day, sir. You were a major and Camp David commander, and so it's good to see you again. Incidentally, 17 promotions, if you count all of those, E1 to E7, W to W2, and now 09, 17 promotions. Okay, facilitating this discussion is our President and CEO, Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, retired. Her career went from E1 to 09 as well, culminating with her assignment as the Army CIO G6, where she managed defense enterprise, IT infrastructure, C4 solutions, advanced technology used by the military warfighter, and then supporting the civilian workforce. She's a leader in the defense information technology communication systems, and after retiring from the Army and before coming to AFCEA, she worked at Booz Allen and at Accenture Federal. Ma'am, over to you for this esteemed panel.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see you here on our last day. I was getting a little worried as I saw the hordes leaving last night. So thank you for staying with us for the conclusion here. It's been a great week, great speakers, and we're going to culminate with two of the best. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So our theme is command at the speed of relevance, from data, networks, and command and control to decision in the digital battle space. General Ray, I'm going to start with you, and if you could spend a few minutes, and if you want to say anything else about your great career and or the topic, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. How's everybody doing out there? Hey, like General Lawrence said, thanks for sticking around. I hope that General Isaacson and I can excite you here and a couple of things that we're thinking about. I'm a little nervous. The reason why, when you go to school and your teachers are teaching you, and then you show up at a job and your teachers are also there, now they're checking your performance. I feel like I'm surrounded by former G6, CIO G6s. Now I'm a little nervous in the room on, what I'm going to say, that my teachers are also going to be grading my work up here on stage. But ma'am, thank you so much for the opportunity. To AFCEA, thank you for the opportunity. Always great to be on stage with this esteemed gentleman right here on my left. General Isaacson and I go back a long way, so hopefully we can share a couple things with you. What a timely opportunity for us to have this conversation with you. Most of you probably just heard the other day, our Secretary and the Chief announced that the Army is doing what is called Army Transformation Initiative. It's a big move. It's a bold move. We were transforming in contact. Most of you heard that. We did continuous transformation. All that is rolling up into what is now called the Army Transformation Initiative. It's a big deal. What we're looking at across the board is how do we make the formation leaner but more lethal at the same time to achieve the Secretary of Defense's priorities, which is more pointed at the warfighter himself. So that's what this is all about. So if you've heard, the Chief and the Secretary have been on the road, some things that we're looking at when it comes to Army Transformation Initiative is there's things that we were doing that they believe we don't need to do anymore. There are things that we were investing in, capabilities that we were investing in, that we're going to just stop doing them. We're not going to get rid of those things. We're just going to stop buying certain things. For instance, the Booker, you probably heard the Secretary speak about that. We're going to stop that, but we're going to invest in newer and lighter and faster and more capable things. There's a lot of Humvees, thousands of them that are out there. The Chief said, we're not going to invest in those anymore. We're going to invest in something new, the ISV. So we're going to look at different capabilities along the way. But what I'm thinking about and how do we play in as the network leads for all this, and you've heard the Chief over and over, 2.5 years later, I even heard him yesterday on his testimony. The network is the #1 transformation priority. He said it again. We should be all proud of that in the room. In 41 years, I am so proud that it is the #1 thing that they're talking about. Not just bullets, not just UASs. They're saying for those to work, we need the network in place. So what are we doing about it? We know that the future fight is going to change. I believe that the future fight is not only going to be kinetic. It's going to be drones. It's going to be the attacking of our networks, not from over there, but over here. Most people believe the fight is over there, but I believe 24/7, it's over here against our critical infrastructure. So what are we going to do about it? We need industry to help us understand that. It is not going to be only our DoD networks. I'm talking about our critical infrastructure, our water, our electricity, and everything else. How do we protect those things so that we can fight over there? That's the driving force of where I think we should go, because that's the change in character of war. It's not the kinetic anymore. It's about the electronic. That's what it's going to be about. So how do we evolve the network to get there? I look at it in 3 buckets. I had an opportunity in my first 100 days to go around and talk to all the COCOMs, all our fighting formations. But the one that I landed on that gave me a simple way to look at it was when I landed at the Ranger Regiment. And the 75th Ranger Regiment commander told me he looks at the battlefield in a 3-dimensional piece: X, Y, and Z. So I look at it from a tactical, an operational, and a strategic. What did he talk about on the X? He said, what capabilities do we need to be lighter, more lethal, and hide in plain sight on the X? That's where he fights. How do I get reinforced from the Y? So I look at it operationally, what capabilities do I need on the Y to provide to support on the X? He said on the Z, that's where the planning and the future fight takes place, is on the Z. That's the strategic environment. So what capabilities do I need on the Z in order to do that future planning, in order to provide support on the X? So operationally, tactically, what we're doing is getting lighter and faster. Operationally, what we're doing is, software-defined capabilities. And what we're doing strategically is we're converging our networks into a unified network environment, having zero trust as our backbone on what we're trying to achieve along the way. So we need industry to help us get there. We won't do this alone. We're going to need commercial capabilities to help us get there, and we're going to come to you, and we're going to tell you exactly what we need and how we need it. And I hope this conversation today will drive you to understand more of what we need in order to fight in the X, the Y, and the Z, the tactical, operational, and the strategic environment. So I look forward to your questions and conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. General Edmondson.
Well, ma'am, thank you again for a return engagement here to Baltimore. And I know that's either because you were mildly entertained by what I did last year and you would like me to take another swing at it, or I was just so much entertainment that you couldn't live without us. But whatever the reason, thanks for allowing us to return again, and thanks to AFCEA for hosting what is a magnificent collection of teammates. I also appreciate the opportunity to share the stage with you and my great friend Jeth, whom I've known for several decades, and echo some of the insights he's just described, where the Joint Staff and the Joint Force and the new chairman live, are really in this idea that supplement what Jeth described as one of our services, is how do we bridge between the fight tonight and tomorrow's, and then be in a perpetual modernization path that prepares you for what's to come, which we always predict woefully inadequately, but it always puts us on a path to ensure that we're improving the capability. And one of the areas that we're most concerned about is this notion that Jeth hits on, is the idea of information advantage leading to decision advantage. That is, I think, the strategic imperative. A lot of to the point that the Army's #1 priority modernizing the network and unifying the network are a reflection of this more broader understanding that the cognitive decision space is becoming more and more valuable. And because our leadership understands this, the ability for technology, the ability to protect, and the ability to be able to coalesce around the information that's necessary to inform the decisions that are happening at greater and greater speed on a lethal battlefield. How many of us have made a decision and then we'd ask after the decision if I had more information, more time to make it? Those are the two dimensions that shape decision space. And one area that we can fix is the information. One area we cannot fix is the time dimension. We cannot make more time, but we can make better use of your time. And this is where we are focusing our attention. So this is a reflection of the data-centric pivot that I believe that Jeth is describing. The idea that information is more valued than it ever has been before. The idea of structuring, defending, and orient decisions that are factually and informed fully through machine learning, machine-enabled decision-making, and artificial intelligence that land in decision support that ultimately put the leaders in the most informed decision space that they can operate in. To Jeth's point also, we cannot and have not to this point been doing this alone. We partner, and this is about the power of the partnerships. Power of partnerships with the services, powers of the partnership with the combatant commands, power of the partnership of the third deck of OSD in the Pentagon, and fueled all by our industry and academia partners. So I think in this conversation that we have today, there is real opportunity for us to, one, lay down expectations and notions, and two, answer questions, and three, project and call to action forward on how we coalesce around these extraordinary challenges. But for the joint force, it's about decision space and integrating allies and partners by design and not by exception. So we look forward to the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am only going to ask a couple questions because I know that the generals want to hear from you in the audience, so please get your questions in. I'm actually going to ask both of you this one. Jeth, how do you envision the role of the cyber defenders evolving on tomorrow's battlefield?
Yeah, what a great question. That leads back into exactly what I was talking about, that, most people believe that that fight is over there, but, I inherently believe that the fight is over here 24/7. What I talk to the team most of the days about is, what I wish for is a censored network, a censored battlefield that was automated and would report to those defenders when they believe someone was knocking at the door and trying to get into our networks. That's where I would like to see our defenders. I usually use an analogy of the most censored platform that I know of is the airplane that flies in flight. That pilot is at the front of the aircraft, but he knows when the cargo door is open because that environment is so censored. He knows when he's losing oxygen in the actual main cabin and he has to get down to 10,000 feet. Because it's really censored. Our sensors today on the battlefield, our defenders still have to go to those sensors and make sense of the information in order to know what to do or where the enemy is within our network itself. I want to see our cyber defenders have a censored environment that they can actually be more proactive than reactive when it comes time to get after our networks itself. But I wanted to report actively to them. Knocking at the door, there's the enemy trying to get in. How do I now defend against that? Because again, continued training is going to be important. Sharing of that information with defenders across services is important in order for us to protect our attack surface that I know our adversaries are going after. Our defenders has to look forward. What does 5G look like? What does 6G look like? What does future G look like, and how do they defend in that environment? How do they defend in the electromagnetic spectrum? That's one of the most dangerous areas that we're facing today if you just look at what's taking place in Ukraine and what's taking place across all the other battlefields, Israel and other places. So again, I think it's important that our defenders have a more censored environment where it's actively reporting to them.
That's very interesting. I hadn't thought of it in that terms, but you defined it both ways. What are our techniques to push data and or pull on the battlefield, and how do we get it?
Sure.
Great way to look at it, sir.
Yeah.
Ma'am, that's a great question because I think what it challenges the entire cyber enterprise, particularly defense, is to look at key terrain. So previously, as Jeff was describing network and data centricity as a pivot, I think if you're a cyber defender, key terrain is shifting. And so one, a recognition of where the key terrain is, the techniques by which the defense ought to be implemented. So an example might be, as I become less network focused and network centric and become more data centric, principles of zero trust, principles of access and management all produce this concept that's enduring of key terrain. And then how do you defend the key terrain? How do you educate the enterprise, the humans that are enabled to see that space, sense, monitor, react, respond, and project? What we want to defend against, if you will, or is building 10-foot cyber walls and have the adversary show up with 11-foot ladders. So this is what contest looks like. And cyberspace is probably the greatest manifestation of how contest occurs right now. Because when you think about the range of military operations of competition, crisis, and conflict, we are in competition at every moment of every day, to Jeff's point, right here in the United States and across with allies and partners. And it's all about key terrain. It's about critical infrastructure and key resources. And being able to empower, sense, monitor, see the space, react and respond, and have the talent capable of defending that key terrain, I think is a key component for us.
Yes, sir. Yeah. General Ray, this week we've heard about the Army Unified Network Plan 2.0. As we talk about that, how are you bringing the convergence of the enterprise to the tactical network?
Yeah, so Army Unified Network 2.0 is a fundamental shift from establishing the unified network to enabling, like General Isaacson's been explaining today, it's really focused on data centricity. I often explain to Mose what data centricity is all about. It's really like three key imperatives when you think about data centricity. One, robust transport, something I believe we've achieved over the last 3.5 years. Most vendors are moving to more robust transport. We're thickening our transport across the board. Cloud enable. Being cloud enabled is another imperative when you think about data centricity across the board. So that's something that we're continuing to evolve on, is having more cloud-enabled capabilities out there. But the one that's keeping us from getting to that end state is the zero trust portion of it, which really entails two things: identity, credential, and access management. And I explain it in a certain way, and I do it every time. So I want vendors, I want all of the support to help us get there. I want an identity from the tactical edge to the enterprise. I want my credentials to follow me from the tactical to the enterprise. I want access to data from the tactical to the enterprise. And I want you to manage me along the way. I want us to find better ways to have attribute-based access control against the data. How do we tag, label the data in a manner that we can actually access the data? The examples I use most of the time is, hey, in the banking environment, it is very, very easy for us to get after our data. Your data is in there, my data is in there, but our attributes is what allows us to see our data separately from the individuals that are part of that. Every day I go into the Pentagon. None of the guards know who I am, but I use my CAT card to move throughout the Pentagon. But there are spaces that I can't access because I don't have the attributes for it. That's kind of the theme and where we're trying to go when you think about the unified network and when you think about AUN 2.0 moving from a network-centric to a data-centric environment. And it comes again in those three levels: operationally, tactically, and strategically. Tactically, we're moving to more lighter, more lethal type of capabilities. Operationally, we're moving to software-defined environments, cloud-enabled, and strategically, we're converging those networks together across the board. And that's what AUN 2.0 is trying to bring to the table. But we need the support of industry to help us get there. Absolutely. In all three of those areas.
Absolutely. General, what does a data-centric joint force look like in practice, and why is it your priority?
Ma'am, thank you. So to Jeff's very last point, imagine the ability to not only do what he described at all echelons, strategic, operational, and tactical, but be an ally and a partner. So this notion of not being able to badge into a particular part of the building based upon whom you are and your credentials and access is really important. We are proving time and again in this new universe that we hope to be deploying widely is that we can manage those who have access to information. And because many of them are allies and partners, we live in a data-centric world with network-centric policy. So technology is no longer the barrier. What we are finding is that demonstrations, experiments, and exercises demonstrate time and again that we can integrate rapidly allies and partners and rapidly assemble a joint force across the globe that's fully integrated in the means that Jeff just described. But the barriers, the limiting factors are not technology, but their culture and their policy. So we're working to address both of those. But why it's so powerful is exactly that component, is the adaptability to rapidly allow for and assemble a warfighting and a joint force that includes coalition, which every one of your geographic combatant commands will fight with. Some vary broadly, but every theory of victory that any combatant commander would tell you includes an immense support from allies and partners and the ability to integrate them at this command and control level and all that enables the other warfighting functions at data level is something that's one, achievable and absolutely essential to get back to the imperative we previously described about decision advantage. So imagine being able to see yourself, execute situational awareness and disseminate, but also be able to plan across all warfighting functions. And finally, be able to direct your assigned and allocated forces to include allies and partners at a speed and efficiency and agility that you never have before. That's why it's an important priority for us, ma'am.
So look, let me add a couple of things. I had an opportunity to go out and see all the COCOMs now. And one thing they've talked about there is how do we share information with our partners? I mean, that is their sole purpose of winning. If you look at CENTCOM, 19 bilateral connections to their partners. You look at INDOPACOM, between 11 and 17 different mission partner environments that they deal with on a daily basis. And Europe is the same way. The question is, how do we actually share it? I think over the last 10 to 11 years, we've looked at this problem in a really different way. I call it the upside down triangle. So if you look at an upside down triangle, at the bottom it's very narrow. We wanted everyone to enter into that narrow portion of the triangle, which was mostly our IL-5 and IL-6 environment. And our partners can't meet us there. We can't share information with them there anyway. So I asked the team to turn that triangle upside down and let's start at the wider portion of the triangle and come in at the IL-2. And as we need to lock down the environment, let's lock it down. But we cannot win the next fight without our partners. So the question is, what are we willing to share and how are we willing to share that information? And I think we have to take a different approach.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about a lot over the last couple months with leaders in the Pentagon, is our ally partners. How are we going to train and communicate with our industry partners? Yes. Which even introduces a new challenge there for us. Do we have any questions, sir?
Yes, ma'am, we do. First up, from a Joint Chiefs of Staff perspective, what is the department doing to align cultures across the services to further our capacity and capability to warfight more jointly? And what opportunities still exist for further improvements in terms of bridging cultural challenges that can impair CJAD C2 at the human level?
Well, Jeff, what do you think of that? No, I'm assuming that was for me, and I appreciate. I'll take a stab and ask Jeff to give me a service perspective. Aligning the services from a Title X perspective has become less difficult than perhaps in the past, and I say it this way because one, we have leaders that Jeff described that have a common vision and have an understanding of the means by which to get after that vision. And the confidence with which the Chief of Staff of the Army, for example, to say, the network is so important to me and the command and control function as a warfighting function is so important that I'm placing the highest priority. You'll find this shift among each of the services to be more common than it used to be. So while I don't put words in chiefs of staff's mouths, what I can tell, the actions are the following. We have unified a vision of what CJAD C2 is, and the C, of course, with coalition. But let's talk about the joint force first. When we've unified the vision of what CJAD C2 is and is not, I kind of describe it similarly as Jeff with three axes. One is the range of military operations, so competition, crisis, and conflict. Another is the warfighting functions. And the third are the warfighting domains. And when you look at the cube like that, and in the center, place allies and partners, then you have a temporal understanding of what we're trying to accomplish with CJAD C2. CJAD C2 isn't a thing, it isn't a box, it isn't something that's going to be delivered by a crane or a box that will paint green. Command and control is a warfighting function, and all the tools and capabilities and the infrastructure, the defensibility, the talent component, and the rapid process by which we adopt and pivot to maintain momentum and velocity on perpetual modernization all together are what CJAD C2 is. We've described it in the following four components. The first is to be able to see yourself and understand your environment. So this is situational awareness. The second is to be able to plan in all warfighting functions to include targeting, because we're talking about fighting, not communicating. And with allies and partners, you want to fight, not just communicate. And the third is to be able to direct your assigned and allocated forces. As a command and control function, you'd be able to tell people what to do and conclude that action to your determination. And the final thing is do those three things with allies and partners. And in a bucket, and in a summary, that's what CJAD C2 is. So as we unify the vision and the services, the joint chiefs, and the combatant commands, and the chairman and the vice chairman have all essentially agreed to the rubric that I've just described, then back to the unity of effort. The combatant commands and services are all driving modernization efforts within the framework I just described. And we are exercising and experimenting at a much more rapid rate than we have in the past to demonstrate what we are able to describe with command and control functions. We are facilitating decisions at a much more rapid pace, but we are also facilitating engaging targets. So this is more than just command and control, it's all warfighting functions. The final piece I mentioned, and Jeff mentioned this earlier, is as we talk about need to share versus need to know, we have discovered that it's less a conversation about data sharing that the US wishes to share with allies and partners. It is what the allies and partners have assembled in terms of data that we need to have access to. This door swings both ways. And data access and sharing, we, the United States, benefit from the accumulative data and information that our allies and partners possess. because they have sensors, they have effectors, they have platforms. And in order to be able to roll in on target that might be sensed by an ally, for a US effector to roll in on, that door has to swing the other direction. And far too often we believe it is what we are going to share. This paradigm has been shifted completely based upon the pace of experimentation and exercise where we are consuming allies and partners' data much more than we are providing it.
Yeah, so Todd laid that out perfectly. And
Yeah.
I just want to add a couple of things from a service perspective. One, if you talk about joint, where we're sitting here jointly having a great conversation right now, I think about how we see the future when it comes to our network and where we want to provide, a more lethal environment for our commanders to make decisions. But from a service perspective, what are we doing in the Army in order to enhance what CJADC2 brings to the table? If most of you know Project Convergence, it's our largest experimental environment that we go in and experiment in all types of capabilities, from weapon systems to our network to drones and everything else. But what we're doing differently in our command and control, speaking of command and control, is that we have 13 stovepipe command and control systems, from our CPCE to TAS for our air picture, to AFATADS for our fires. What we're looking at differently is how to put that into an ecosystem under what is called next generation command and control. And that new environment that we're going after is going to provide, AI, machine learning, large language models in order to aggregate data and present that data to commanders to make a more informed decision. It comes in 4 layers: a transport layer, an infrastructure layer, which is our cloud environment, and then it's a data and app layer. The data is how we do information exchange, and then our app layer is collapsing all those 13 disparate and stovepipe C2 platforms into applications that work inside that ecosystem. And so what the G6 and my team provides is that transport and infrastructure layer. What the Army Futures Command, our PEOs and others provide is that data layer and that app layer that we're waiting to ride on top of that highway. We do this in a joint environment with both our partners and our allies and our services in Project Convergence, and we just did that in Project Convergence Capstone 5, which have proven out to be very, very successful. So that's our contribution to the CJADC2 and joint environment, and we're working closely with all the other services.
Great. Terry, do we have another question?
How can industry specifically support the Army's network transformation initiative, particularly in developing lighter, faster, and more secure network capabilities that enable decision advantage?
Yeah, I think I will tell you that industry is helping us already. Again, I just came from Project Convergence Capstone 5, and we probably had over 100+ different capabilities embedded in that experiment, from goggles to drones. So what I would ask for you to do is to get with C5ISR, work on developing a crater to get to be part of Project Convergence. Bring those capabilities into that environment early in the process in order for us to see what technologies you have to provide. We need all technologies. We need counter UAS. We need UAS. We need things that will bring the network closer, zero trust capabilities out there that we'll need. So if you get in early and often into a crater environment, you can work with C5ISR in that. We can get you into our experimental environment where we can look at those technologies. And I also have an engagement strategy. You can work with my office as well. Come and sit with me. I have an engagement strategy where I'll sit and talk with you and look at your technologies to see where it fit into the Army Unified Network Plan 2.0.
Very good.
We have time for one more question, I believe. How can, excuse me, how can data-centric networks assist combatant commands conducting trilateral or multinational operations with our allies and partners, especially in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, so I think this goes to the flexibility that a data-centric environment and the credential and access management component, zero trust and cloud, assured transport ecosystem Jeff described facilitate, because Indo-PACOM is a great example. If you're talking about Europe, you have a treaty alliance, so you have NATO. You have a number of disparate bespoke treaties, if you will, among Indo-PACOM. And this is a degree of difficulty that provides both opportunity and challenge. And the opportunity is to demonstrate this way of manifesting command and control and integrating allies and partners into operations at a much more agile and rapid rate than we have before. JET's experience in, as the CENTCOM J6 was marked, I'm assuming, and just because we're mates and have spoken about it, but a tremendous amount of bespoke conversations between partners to bring together a network approach that was incredibly expensive, timely, and really expansive in terms of the cyber attack surface. But in Indo-PACOM, if we do this correctly, a number of nations that are rapidly integrated into the Indo-PACOM AOR and reducing the attack surface, I think is critical to the outcome that we are pursuing and why this is so important. Because of the principles of the defensibility of this environment that we're describing, reduce the opportunity for penetration, but also it reduces the impact assuming penetration. And those are very, very distinct differences. But it also, I think, at the end of the day, is the way forward holistically for all the combatant commands, not only Indo-PACOM.
Yeah, so Indo-PACOM is a very difficult environment. I had the opportunity to command the 516 Signal Brigade over there. I think it's a very difficult problem that most don't truly understand the depth and breadth of, being separated by so much water in order to get to any particular landmass. I used to make an effort to explain to folks that, for instance, we have a small island in the Pacific called Kwajalein. Most of you can take a look it up. It's a place that's 2,000 miles from any other landmass, but it's a strategic point for us out there. And we're building up and making sure we have better comms capabilities out there. Another place that industry can help invest in to ensure that we have the right infrastructure for that location. Guam is another location. Underwater sea cable protection is going to be key in that environment. So if you want to look at technologies that can protect our underwater sea cable, is going to be key. Repairing of underwater sea cable is going to be something that we're going to ask you to do. I normally give an example of if a cable cut happens there, is being watched how fast we can repair that cable cut. So, I mean, these are areas that you need to invest in. GPS, denied GPS environment, other places you can invest in when it comes to the Indo-PACOM region. These are technologies that we have to get in front of our adversaries sooner rather than later. They're working to deny us entry into that location. Again, I get back to, it's not only happening over there, they're going to stop us over here from getting there. So we need your help to get below the radar in order for us to get our forces in to conduct the fight in such a large, 54% of the Earth's landmass is actually in the Indo-PACOM region. It's something we have to think about.
Absolutely. Please join me in thanking General Ray and General Edmondson. I know it's hard to get out of that building. We really appreciate your insights today, so thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Black back to the stage.
General Isaacson, General Ray, General Lawrence, I just want to thank you for this amazing panel on command at the speed of relevance from data networks and C2 to decision in the digital battlespace. So a great panel today. We learned about the sensor network, the upside down triangle, the 3 axes, CJAD, C2, and then all the challenges that are associated with the infrastructure to support this. In lieu of a speaker gift, AFCEA will donate to the Fisher House on your behalf. And now I will turn the podium over to General Lawrence for closing remarks.
Preferred a speaker's gift, but that's.
Okay, well, you can see the remaining of the schedule. We still have a lot going on today on the screens. Due to your feedback, and we listened to you, and we're going to ask you to give it to us again, we're hosting a networking brunch this morning starting at 11:30, and again, in lieu of a different lunch. So please continue to give us your feedback. The survey is located on your app, and you can continue to help us improve this event every year as we go forward. I'd like to particularly point out the Meet the PM session to be held upstairs after the exhibit floor closes. Don't miss the opportunity to network and question our great portfolio and project managers. Thank you so much for joining us over these last few days. We didn't know where we were going with this one, is all of this uncertainty around us, but it has been fabulous. So with our topic of empowering the warfighter, innovate, integrate, and dominate, I'd also like to extend a thank you to our partners that helped us put this on. United States Cyber Command, NSA, the Department of Defense Chief Information Office, DISA, Joint Headquarters, DODN, and the Department of Homeland Security at CISA, who gave us so much great information and guidance as we went forward on this. We can't do this without all our volunteers, so a huge, huge thank you to the volunteers who worked this week. A special thank you to my dream team, the AFCEA staff. We know how hard you work, the hours you work, the weeks before this happened, so thank you very much to the dream team. And you know me, I can't get off this stage without thanking our many, many industry partners for your support, for the exhibits, for the sponsorships that you did this week were phenomenal. We want to thank CompTIA, GIAC, and CertNexus for the certifying organizations that reviewed our sessions and have provided those informations. Watch for our upcoming events. We still have a lot going on this year. So go to our site, afcea.org/events. Hope to see you at TechNet Emergence in Reston, July 15th and 16th as we go forward. These are the topics that we're going to address there, and if you have an interest there, please reach out to us. We're going to talk about the advanced communication technology and immersive technology, trusted AI and autonomy, advanced computing and human-machine interfaces, cybersecurity and data management, and other emerging technologies. So please give us your feedback, be there, help us talk through that one. So mark your calendar for TechNet Cyber next year, June 2nd through the 4th, right here in Charm City. I can't thank you enough for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again. Please drive safe, or however you're traveling back home, get home safe, and I'll see you at our next event. Thank you.